Today's video is all about casseroles. They're great for get-togethers, potlucks, and dinners. So I thought I'd share some of our favorites. Hey y'all, I'm Valerie, and welcome to my kitchen. In today's video, I'm sharing 6 of the best casserole recipes that I think you're gonna love. Okay y'all, let's get started. I think your family's gonna love this chicken cordon bleu Rice-A-Roni casserole. I'm starting out by cooking up a 5.9 ounce box of Rice-A-Roni according to the directions on the back of the box. I used the chicken and garlic flavor, but you can really use any flavor you think will be good in here. I added 4 tablespoons of butter along with that rice, and I just let that cook for a little bit until it started to brown. Now I'm adding in that seasoning packet along with 2.5 cups of water. I'm going to give that a stir, bring it to a boil, then reduce that heat to a simmer, cover it, and then let it continue to cook for 15 to 20 minutes until that rice is done. By the way, if you're enjoying these easy recipes, go ahead and give me a thumbs up. It really does help out my channel. This rice is done, so I'm going to head over to the counter with it. To a large bowl, you're going to go ahead and add in that cooked Rice-A-Roni. I'm also adding 1 can of cream of chicken soup. And if you want to do cream of celery or cream of mushroom, that's fine too. Now I'm adding 1 cup of sour cream. And if you wanted to make this a little healthier, I'm sure you could use plain Greek yogurt instead. For the seasonings, we're just adding a 1/2 teaspoon of garlic powder. Next, you're going to add in 1 tablespoon of the honey mustard dressing. And I'm sure just the regular honey mustard, like the dipping sauce, would be fine. I'm giving all that a really good stir before I add in the rest. Now I'm adding 3 cups of cooked shredded chicken. You can also do diced, along with 8 ounces of diced ham. And y'all know we can't forget the cheese. The recipe called for 1.5 cups of shredded Swiss, but I'm using mozzarella. Now you're going to give this one last really good stir. You'll need a 9x13 baking dish for this. I usually try to spray them with non-stick spray, but it looks like I've forgotten to do that here lately. Now you're just going to pour in that mixture. You're going to spread that out into an even layer, and then we're going to make a topping for this. I push that aside. Yes, I'm going to use that same dirty mixing bowl there. Might as well, no reason to dirty up another bowl. I added 4 tablespoons of melted butter and 1 sleeve of Ritz crackers. I'm using my rolling pin to crush them, but you can crush them any way you want to. You're just going to stir that around to get those crackers covered in that butter. And now you're going to sprinkle them evenly on top of that casserole. If you wanted, you could also instead do the French fried onions. Now this goes into the oven to bake, uncovered, at 350 for 30 minutes. This casserole turned out so good. We all loved it. You could also make this ahead of time, and I would do everything except the topping, and then cover it with saran wrap and place it in the refrigerator overnight until you're ready to bake it. This was so good with the ham in here. Sometimes, you know, you just get tired of just chicken, so it was nice to have a little something extra. This cheesy smoked sausage and hash brown casserole was one I kind of threw together last minute, and I just prayed it came out good, and it did. In a large skillet, I added 1 tablespoon of butter along with half a diced onion. I sauteed this for just a few minutes until that onion was tender. I'm using 2 of the 14-ounce packages of smoked sausage. I cut them into coins and then cut those in half. And I knew we would like a lot of sausage in here, but if you wanted to stretch it even further, you could totally get away with just 1 package. You're just going to toss that around and let it cook. You're just wanting it to brown up a little bit here. Now you can remove it from the heat, drain the grease, and head over to the counter. And you'll need a very large bowl for this. I was a little nervous about it fitting in the casserole dish. When you're experimenting, you just never know. To that bowl, I added 1 cup of sour cream, along with 1 can of cheddar cheese soup, and if you don't have this, you can use cream of chicken, or cream of mushroom or celery, or whatever you feel like will be good. Next, I added 3/4 cup of milk. I used 2%, about a cup of shredded cheddar cheese. Sharp is really good in here, but you can use whatever you like. I thought the southern style hash browns would be really good in here. They have peppers and onions in them. This is a 28-ounce bag. Mine are diced, but you can also use shredded. Now you're going to add in the sausage and onions. And I really should have drained these, but I thought I could scoop them out without getting all that grease in there, but I don't know what I was thinking. Now you're just going to mix this until it's well combined. And I completely forgot to season it, so I added garlic powder and badia complete. Now I'm having to stir it again to get those seasonings mixed in. I'm using a 9x13 baking dish, and one of y'all asked how many of these baking dishes I have. I have a lot. I really need to get in my cabinets and organize and get rid of some things, but I really don't want to. Got that mixture in there, and thank goodness it fit. Just spread that out, and then you're going to top it with 1 to 2 cups of shredded cheddar cheese. I'll let you decide how cheesy you want it here. And of course, I added some parsley for color. Now this goes into the oven to bake at 375 for 35 to 45 minutes. This was absolutely delicious. I'll definitely be making it again. By the way, what types of meats do y'all prefer? Do you like chicken more, or ground beef, or maybe sausage or smoked sausage? We use chicken the most. And y'all know something I don't typically use a lot of is chicken thighs. I love them, and I need to start cooking with them. This casserole was easy to make. It was full of flavor, and we all gave it a 10 out of 10. You're gonna love this $1 million chicken pierogi casserole. In a greased 9x13 inch baking dish, I'm pouring in half of a 15-ounce jar of Alfredo sauce. Feel free to make your own homemade, but I'm just taking the easy way out. And just spread it out to cover the bottom of that dish. The recipe calls for a 32-ounce bag of the frozen cheese pierogis, but I wanted to try it with only half, so I ended up only using 16 ounces. And you'll just lay those down into an even layer. I set that aside so I could make up a chicken mixture. In a large mixing bowl, I added 4 ounces of softened cream cheese, along with 1 cup of cottage cheese, half a cup of sour cream, and I'm also going to add in the other half of the Alfredo sauce. And I put a tiny bit of water in there and shook it up just to get all that sauce out. Now add you in a big handful of the French fried onions, maybe half a cup or so. And this wasn't in the recipe, but I added half a teaspoon of garlic powder. Then just stir that to make sure everything is well combined. Now you're going to add about 3 to 4 cups of shredded chicken, or you can use diced, as long as it's cooked. Mix that all together. Then I'm going to grab that baking dish with the pierogis, and I'm going to spoon that chicken mixture evenly over the top. and try to do it gently. That way you don't move those pierogies all over the place. Now I'm covering that chicken mixture with about a cup of shredded cheddar cheese. But you could really use any cheese you like here. And I'm also sprinkling over about a cup of French fried onions. Cover this with foil, then this goes into the oven to bake at 375 for about 40 minutes. And I did take that foil off about halfway through, just so that top could get golden brown. This was delicious. I need to cook with pierogies more often. This is how I like to make baked spaghetti. In a large pan, I added 1 pound of ground beef and half a pound of sausage, along with half a diced onion. I'm just going to break that up and let it cook until it's cooked through. And while that's cooking, over in a separate pot, I'm going to cook up 12 ounces of angel hair pasta. When that ground beef and sausage is done, I'm just using a paper towel to remove some of that grease. After I get rid of some of that grease, I like to add about 1½ teaspoons of minced garlic. I stirred that around and let it cook for about a minute or so, just until that garlic becomes fragrant. Not but a second though, because you don't want to burn it. Now we're going to remove this from the heat and head over to the counter. In a large bowl, I'm adding a 16-ounce container of cottage cheese. Ricotta cheese will work fine too. Next, I'm adding in 1 beaten egg. And for the seasonings, you could really add anything you like, but I like to keep it simple, and I just add in 1 packet of the Italian dressing mix. I'm also adding half a cup of shredded Parmesan cheese, along with 1½ cups of shredded mozzarella cheese. Now I'm adding a 24-ounce jar of spaghetti sauce, but you can use your favorite spaghetti sauce here. You're going to give all this a really good stir. And y'all, I almost forgot to add in that meat. Now I'm adding in that ground beef, sausage, and onion mixture. Now I'm giving it one last really good stir. I grabbed my 9x13 baking dish, and I remembered this time to spray it with nonstick spray. Now you can go ahead and add in that 12 ounces of cooked and drained angel hair pasta. You'll just want to spread that out a little bit. Now you're going to top it with that meat sauce. If you want, you can layer this and do half the noodles and then half of that meat sauce, and then repeat that again, another layer of noodles and then the meat sauce. But I just pour it all on top, and then I use my spoon to kind of work that sauce down in there. If you want, you could even mix the noodles and the sauce all together and then add it in. And I topped this with a 1.5 cups of shredded mozzarella cheese. Now this goes into the oven to bake at 375 for 35 to 40 minutes. And while that's in the oven, I wanted to make up some quick garlic knots. We love garlic bread with our baked spaghetti, but I was out. I did have a can of biscuits though, so I'm going to show you how to make garlic knots with them. You may have already seen this, but some of you may have not. So I just take a biscuit and I cut it in half, and I roll each half into a long rope. And then you're just going to twist that rope into a knot. These are really so simple to do, and if you find that you need a side and you need something quick, maybe you're out of garlic bread or you're out of bread or rolls, these are a great option because I usually always have a can of biscuits in my refrigerator. After I got them all tied up there, I have about 3 tablespoons of melted butter, and to that I added some garlic salt, garlic powder. I also added some badia complete, some parsley, and grated Parmesan cheese. And you can just season this to the way you think you'll like it. You just don't want to add too much Parmesan cheese because it'll end up being more like a paste rather than easy to spread butter sauce. And I'm just using a little silicone brush to brush that butter sauce onto each of those little biscuit garlic knots. Put these in the oven to bake according to the directions on the back of that canned biscuit dough. Quick timing. The baked spaghetti is out of the oven. It smells amazing. We love baked spaghetti. It's probably one of our favorite dishes. Y'all will have to let me know below, what is your #1 favorite meal? Because maybe it's something that I haven't made before and that'll help to give me some new ideas. And those garlic knots were so good. And they're super simple to make, but they looked a little on the fancy side. Y'all are definitely going to have to give this recipe a try. You'll love it. I'm so excited about this one because I took my favorite chicken bacon ranch casserole and made it into a dump and go. In a large bowl, I added 1 16-ounce jar of Alfredo sauce. And listen, if y'all want to make your own homemade Alfredo sauce, you go right ahead. I'm sure it'd be even better, but I just didn't have time. You're also going to add in 3/4 cup of chicken broth, and I'm just adding that into my Alfredo jar, shaking it up and adding that in. That way I get all the Alfredo sauce out. Next, I'm adding in 1 cup of cottage cheese. And if you're not a fan of this, trust me, you won't even know it's there. I'm also adding 1/2 cup of sour cream, and I just bought this, and I don't know what happened, but it was like water. So thank goodness my daddy lives next door. He's always there to save the day. I took off up there and dug through his refrigerator and found this yogurt, and it worked out just fine. You're also going to need 1 packet of ranch seasoning, and I added about a tablespoon of parsley. Now I'm just giving that a quick stir before I add in the rest. And this is very liquidy, and that's okay. That's how it's supposed to be. That's what's going to help to cook the noodles. Here I'm adding about 3 cups of cooked shredded chicken, along with 3 cups or 8 ounces of uncooked pasta. And we love bacon, so I threw in this 2.5 ounce packet of real bacon pieces. But if you want, you can fry up a few pieces of bacon and crumble it up and add that in. And I also added in about 1.5 cups of shredded cheese. Then you're going to stir that up and make sure it's all well combined. I'm going to make this in a 9x13 baking dish, and you'll need to grease it. It doesn't look like I did, but it still worked out fine. Now just pour everything right on in. And you do want to try to spread everything out as evenly as you can. While I'm thinking about it, if you're not already subscribed, go ahead and hit that subscribe button down below. I would love to have you here. And to make sure all that pasta gets cooked, I'm drizzling over about 1/3 cup of water. And I'm topping it with about 1 cup of shredded cheese. Okay, maybe it was more like 1.5 cups. I added a little more parsley just for color. Then you're going to cover it very tightly with foil, and you're going to put it in a 400-degree oven to bake, covered for about 40 minutes. And after 40 minutes, I took it out of the oven and uncovered it. Then you're going to give it a really good stir. Just make sure you don't burn your fingers when you take that foil off. And I should have waited until now to top it with that 1.5 cups of shredded cheese. I just wasn't thinking about having to take it out of the oven and stir it. It'll still taste the same, but I just like seeing that cheese on top. Okay, after you get it all mixed up, This goes back into the oven for 10 to 15 minutes or until that pasta is tender. And I do like to let this sit for about 10 minutes before I serve it. That way it thickens up. And y'all, I couldn't help myself. I had to top it with more cheese. I didn't have to do this, but really I had to. I just needed to see that cheese on top. This was so good. And since my daddy saved me with the sour cream, I had to take him some up. And he said it was delicious. I do try to always take him a plate, especially if I know it's something he's going to love. It's pretty funny actually. So after we eat dinner, I run package up some food and out the door I go. I either hop on the four-wheeler or jump in the car, and up the hill I go. So my daddy lives in front of me and to the left, and my sister and her family live in front of me and to the right. So I always make my rounds to drop off food. Okay, sorry for the chit chat. This dinner was delicious. This meatball sub bubble up casserole only has 5 ingredients, and it's super easy to make. I'm pouring 14 ounces of the frozen Italian-style meatballs into a medium-sized saucepan, along with a 1.5 cups of marinara sauce. And for the seasonings, I added 1/2 teaspoon of garlic powder and 1/2 teaspoon of Italian seasoning. But feel free to season it up any way you like. Just stir it and let it simmer until those meatballs are heated through. I'm using a 9x13 and make sure you spray it with a nonstick spray. You're going to need an 8-count can of refrigerated biscuits. That was a 14-ounce can, and I'm just using my kitchen shears to cut each biscuit into 8 small pieces. Now spread them out to cover the bottom of that dish. Now you're going to pour in those meatballs and marinara sauce. Stir it around and make sure everything is mixed together. Make sure all those biscuit pieces are broke up. That way they're spread out evenly. Now you're going to top it with 1 cup of shredded cheese. And I'm using a trick a few of y'all taught me about. This needs to be covered with foil, and I don't want my cheese to stick to that foil, so I sprayed the underneath side with a little nonstick spray. Works like a charm. This bakes at 375 for 30 minutes. After that, I removed it from the oven, I uncovered it, and I couldn't help myself. I had to top it with another cup of shredded cheese. Then you're going to put it back in the oven for about 10 or 15 minutes until that cheese is melted and that top is golden brown. This is delicious. It don't look the prettiest, but it sure tastes good. I topped it with a little more marinara sauce and shredded cheese. I really hope you enjoyed this video. You may also like these. Don't forget to subscribe down below for more easy recipes, and I will see you in the next one.